Books, books. I like books. I'm gonna read them all. Hi readers, Chris here. Welcome to my channel where I review fantasy, Stephen King, all sorts of books. And today I'm going to be talking about Legendborn from Tracy Deonn. This book was recommended to me by one of my followers over on Instagram, Nika Kohl. She knows I'm a big YA fantasy fan. I had heard a lot of good things about this book, so I was so glad when she recommended this one. As per usual, I'm going to give you my thoughts on three main areas: world building, characters, and plot. But first, a brief setup of this story. Very brief. So we have a young girl. Her name is Bree Matthews, and she recently suffered a tragedy in her life. Her mother died in a car accident, so she's alone with a father. She's kind of been having trouble in school, so she's been sent to this like special school, basically. It's not quite college, but it's like kind of after high school. And so she's living at this school. She's on campus with her best friend. And one night she sneaks off campus, like she does a bad thing, and she sees something that she cannot explain. Something that no one else sees. She sees magic, she sees warriors, and no one else sees this but her. And she's like, what the heck is going on? Trying to find out what's going on leads her down this whole path of secret societies, warriors, legends, and it gets really, really, really crazy. So that is like a super, super, super simple basic setup. But let's talk about the world of Legendborn. Legendborn takes place in what is basically supposed to be our world. So this is our world today, current time. And the school that Bree is going to is in North Carolina. So everything that Bree experiences, like while she's on campus, are things that a normal young African American girl would be experiencing in this day and age right now. And I love that even though this is a magical story, it's fantastical, it has all of these mystical, magical elements, the author still takes the time to add in little details that really make this feel real, like this is something that could really happen and something that could really affect someone. So, for example, our character, Bree, has very curly hair. And there's a scene in the book where one of her friends, well, I shouldn't say friend, but someone that she meets, comes up to her and kind of boings her hair. And it's really interesting because people used to do this to me when I was in high school. People that I didn't even really know that well would either sat behind me in class or would come up to me in the hallway and just like spoing my hair because it's curly and it's cute. And I guess that people just think that they're entitled to touch it for some reason. So I found the little details like that very interesting. And I think that was a great way to really make Bree, first as a character, seem relatable, but really make this world seem realistic. So in addition to that, this book does have a lot of social commentary in it. But it's not in your face, it's subtle, and it does fit in with how the story unfolds. This story is very seeped in Arthurian legend, which I will get to a little bit when I talk about the plot. So thinking about Arthurian legend and social issues, those things, when you say them, don't really seem like they would go together. But I swear, if you read the book, you will understand that they actually do. And it's really fascinating how those two things kind of interweave and connect with each other. So yes, this book has great world building. And now let's talk about the characters, starting with our main character, Bree. I love Bree's journey in this book. And that is really what I want to say. Bree actually does go through a complete journey in this book. So many times in YA, our female characters are like one of two things. They're either like, oh, I'm not special, but I'm super special, or we have like a spunky, manic pixie dream girl. Like, Bree actually goes through a journey on this book, an emotional journey, a physical journey, and a magical journey as well. On one hand, she has suffered a trauma, the loss of her mother, and Bree's relationship with her mother, you find out, was not perfect. Like, it wasn't 100% perfect. And I think that's a really important detail because so many of us don't have perfect relationships with our parents. Yes, we love them, but not everyone's relationship is 100% flowers and sunshine and rainbows all the time. And I think that was a really important detail here. Number two, Bree deals with a lot of anger, and I think she deals with it in a real way. A lot of young people feel angry about any number of different things, but the things that Bree specifically feels anger about, obviously the loss of her mother, and then, some of the things that she has to deal with as a young African-American woman, I think, again, are really relatable and also make her seem more real. And then on top of all those things, as if those weren't good enough, she also has a magical journey as well, which I'll get into a little bit when I talk about the plot. But yeah, she goes through a journey of finding out that there's real magic in the world and what she can do with that magic, what she should do with that magic, and where it leads her. And all of those things, those three different things, make for a really interesting story and a really fascinating journey for our main character. So other than Bree, a big magical book, secret society, there are a lot of other characters in this book, and it would take me forever to talk about all of them, so I'll just talk about a couple of my favorites here, starting with Nick. So Nick is supposed to be the leader of this secret society that Bree uncovers. Not only is Nick supposed to be the leader, but he's kind of a reluctant leader. So pretty much from birth, his family has tried to mold him into the leader that they want him to be. But of course, they never stopped to ask if that was what Nick wanted. So when Nick meets Bree, they are at very different points in their life, and the way that they agree to work together, Nick's kind of reluctant to participate in this society, but Bree needs his help, so he kind of does it anyway. And they just have a really interesting relationship. And because it's YA, yes, there is a romance there. I feel like that shouldn't be a spoiler because there's a romance in every YA fantasy. But I think their romance is very sweet and very cute. And I do like Nick as a character. I think he is a stand-up guy. He's definitely someone that you could see why Bree would fall for. He's a good guy. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows the difference between right and wrong, and he always wants to do the right thing. On one hand, though, I feel that makes him a little bit boring of a character. I know, I hate to say that. I do like Nick. I do. It's just that there's another character who is kind of Nick's second in command, shall we say, that I think is more interesting. So Nick is supposed to be a descendant of King Arthur. Yes, Arthur and the Round Table, the Knights of the Order. And Nick's second in command is this other boy named Selwyn. And Selwyn is what is known as a Merlin. And Merlins, again, are basically trained from birth to be bodyguards, basically, for whoever the descendant of Arthur is. So Nick and Selwyn have had this bond since childhood. But Nick, because he spent so much time trying to not be the descendant of Arthur, has kind of left Selwyn in this odd position. Because he's trying to protect someone who doesn't really want to be protected. He's trying to assert his authority with someone who really doesn't want to be involved. They have a very yin and yang type relationship where Nick is kind of the light and the white and the good, and Selwyn is kind of like the dark and, the black and the undercover, etc., etc. There's a lot more going on with the Merlins in the story, but let's just leave it at that for now because I don't want to give any spoilers. So again, because of this dichotomy, it makes Selwyn a bit more like Bree, where he kind of has that angry streak. He kind of has that I'm a loner streak, but I don't need anyone. But like really deep down inside, he is actually a good person. He just doesn't show it to people. I feel like that makes Selwyn more interesting of a character than Nick. I like them both. I think they both have their purposes in this story. It's just, I am a sucker for like bad boy with a heart of gold, and that's kind of how I see Selwyn's character. So let's move on and talk about the plot now. So yes, the plot of this book is Bree discovers there is a secret society on campus that are the Knights of the Round Table. Not the actual Knights of the Round Table, but all of the kids in this group are descendants. So like one kid, like I mentioned, Nick, is supposed to be a descendant of Arthur. Selwyn is a descendant of Merlin. All of the Knights of the Round Table, Guinevere, Lancelot, any of those names, they all have descendants. They all have descendants. And what this group is supposed to do, what these descendants are supposed to do, is protect the world from dark magic. Because there are dark forces out there, they cross over from other dimensions, and these descendants can call upon the powers of their lieges, their lords, their Arthurs, their Lancelots, and this gives them the power to fight off these beasts and protect the world. However, the way that it works is not as simple as that, but I'm just giving you like the general version. So of course, when Bree finds out that this society exists, this Arthurian legend, these descendants of Arthur, like she wants to be involved, because here's the thing that she suspects. She has a memory of her mother's death. She remembers being in the hospital, watching her mother die, and she remembers someone else being at the hospital that she didn't recognize. And she believes, she does not know for sure, but she believes that this other person that she saw when her mother died is somehow connected to this group. She doesn't know why, she doesn't know how, she doesn't even know if it's true, but she thinks that if there's a chance for her to find out if her mother's death was an accident, or maybe not an accident, that she wants to find out. So that's basically like the main plot of this story. Bree trying to find out what really happened to her mother. Did her mother really die? Was she murdered? And what does this group have to do with it? Now, along the way, she starts to learn about how the group uses their powers, where they get their powers from, how they use them, etc., etc., etc. At some point in the story, about halfway through, obviously, like I mentioned, Bree went off campus. She got into trouble for going here, there, and everywhere. Her father's worried about her because, obviously she's gone through a trauma. She's not acting like herself because she's in this new Arthurian legend society. Her father makes her go and see a therapist. When she meets this therapist, she basically starts to learn that the magic that the descendants of Arthur use is not the only kind of magic in the world. It's only one of many different kinds of magic. And she starts to learn that her ancestors had magic of their own, but it was a different type of magic. There's a lot that goes on in this book, a lot of exploring these different types of magic and going back and forth. But through Bree's experiences of trying to learn more about her specific ancestors and their specific power, this is where the concept of like American history starts to come in. American history. And I'm not going to say it because it would give away spoilers, but I think in your head you can probably put two and two together. Young African-American woman exploring her ancestors' past and their history. There's some stuff in there that it's hard to read because we know it really happened in real life, and not all of it is happy. So there's this whole side of Bree, this whole other side of her that she is starting to discover and experience while her whole journey with the Arthur Society is going on over here. So the way that this book weaves together American history and Arthurian legend, I think is absolutely fascinating. Super fascinating. Really, really, really good stuff. Really interesting, and I couldn't put it down. It was really interesting to read. So like I mentioned, this book has great world building, great characters, and a really fantastic plot. I only have one small complaint about this book, and that is the ending. This book has a twist ending. It has a twist ending. And sometimes that can be really, really good. Sometimes that can be bad. I don't think it's either good or bad here, but I wasn't as excited about it as I thought I should have been. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like I read it and I was like, oh, that's interesting, but I don't feel excited about it. And I guess the best way that I can explain that is, I feel like when you have a good twist, you can look back through the book and be like, oh yeah, there was setup for this here, here, and there. I just missed it. I don't feel like this book had enough setup for the twist. Therefore, to me, the twist felt a bit random, and I don't like a random twist. I feel like if you're going to do a twist, you should take the time to set it up and do it right. I'm not saying, again, that the twist is bad. I do like where the twist went in the story. I just feel like there should have been more setup to it. So that is my only small complaint about the book, but otherwise, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great read, and I would definitely pick up book 2 if I found it on sale. So there you have it. That's my review for Legendborn, a great book that I'm so glad I read. So now I want to know from you, have you read Legendborn? What did you think of it? Did you like it as much as I did? Did you have any issues with the twist? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish stuff coming your way soon. All right, everyone, happy reading.